I think I was kidnapped. 25 years ago. That's what I whispered into the phone on Christmas night. My hands shaking so bad I could barely press 911. The operator froze. I could hear it in her voice. And I swear, for a second, even I didn't believe the words coming out of my mouth. But they were real. Too real. Okay, let me back up. Because you don't just drop a bomb like that without telling the story. My name's Olivia. Or at least, that's what I've been called my whole life. I'm 27. I live just outside Chicago with my fiancé Ryan. And up until this year, I thought I was just a regular woman trying to plan a wedding and survive awkward family holidays. I work at a small design studio. I binge too much coffee. And I've always been the independent one in my family. The one who never needed much attention. At least that's what they told me. But the truth, I've always carried this nagging emptiness, like a shadow that didn't belong to me. I used to think it was just my personality. Turns out, it was something much darker. It started the way most family holidays do. Fake smiles, too much food, and the kind of tension you could cut with a butter knife. We were at my adoptive parents' house, the same cozy suburban home with the vinyl siding and the inflatable snowman that's been patched up with duct tape for 3 years straight. Linda, my mom, was in her usual Christmas mode. Pearls on, hair sprayed to the ceiling, running around with trays of ham like she was hosting the White House Christmas dinner. Robert, my dad, just sat in his recliner like always, sipping bourbon, chuckling at his own jokes, pretending everything was picture perfect. But if you looked close, you'd see it wasn't. You'd see me, sitting at the corner of the table, smiling but not smiling. I don't know how to explain it. I've always felt like the extra piece at the puzzle table. You know, the piece that kind of fits, but doesn't actually belong to that puzzle. Anyway, after dinner, Linda brought out the family photo albums. Like she does every year. She loves that moment. Passing the albums around, making everyone ooh and ah at baby pictures. High school dances, Halloween costumes. She thinks it proves we're a perfect family. But this time, Ryan, my fiancé, was there. And Ryan has the kind of eyes that see what other people miss. He's a photographer, so details are like oxygen to him. He leaned closer while flipping through the album, whispering in my ear. Olivia, something's off. At first, I thought he meant the fashion. Like the ridiculous neon snowsuits Linda made us wear in the 90s. But his eyes narrowed. He held the page closer to the light, tilting his head like he does when he's framing a shot. And then he said, quietly, almost too quiet to hear, "These shadows don't match." I laughed it off. Who cares about shadows? But then I looked, and my stomach twisted. The baby picture of me, in a stroller. My head looked pasted. The lighting didn't line up. My hair in one shot looked cropped, like someone cut it out with scissors and glued it in. I brushed it off, tried to push the thought away. Maybe I was imagining it. But Ryan didn't let it go. He discreetly pulled out his phone and snapped a few photos of the album when nobody was looking. Later, when we slipped out early and got into the car, he pulled them up. "Look," he said, zooming in. He pointed at the fussy outlines around my face. "This isn't just old photography. It's manipulation. Someone literally cut and pasted you into these moments." I felt my throat close. My memories, already spotty before age 5, suddenly felt like a blank wall. I realized I couldn't remember the stroller, or the sandbox, or that Christmas morning in the pajamas with the reindeer print. Nothing. And then it hit me like a train. I don't remember anything before age 5. Not one memory. The first thing I do remember is this cold fluorescent light, like the kind in hospitals or government offices, and the smell of oranges. Sharp, sweet, almost overwhelming. A woman with warm eyes handed me off to Linda, calling her a babysitter. I remember her hands trembling, her face desperate. That's it. Then nothing. Sitting in that car with Ryan, staring at those fake photos, all those fragments came crashing back. And I realized, oh my God, I might not even be who I thought I was. I panicked. My chest tightened, tears blurred my vision. I couldn't breathe. Ryan tried to calm me, rubbing my back, telling me to take it slow. But my brain was on fire. All the birthdays, all the Christmases, all the family moments, they might have been staged, fabricated, a whole life photoshopped. And before I knew it, I was holding my phone, dialing. 911. What's your emergency? My voice cracked. I think I was kidnapped. 25 years ago. There was a long pause. Then the operator said carefully, "Can you repeat that?" And I did, word for word. And that's when everything changed. But let me rewind again, because the truth didn't just explode in one night. It had been simmering for years. You ever have that nagging feeling you're out of place? Like you're in someone else's life, but can't put your finger on why? That's me. Ever since I was a kid, I noticed little things. My parents told me I loved peanut butter, but I gagged on it. They said I adored dolls, but all I wanted were books and cameras. They said my first word was mama, but deep down I remembered something different. Something in another language I couldn't name. They'd laugh when I mentioned it, brush it off as kids imagining things. And then there was Mia, my younger sister. She was everything I wasn't. Blonde like Linda, dimpled like Robert, naturally fitting in like a puzzle piece. She got the hugs, the bedtime stories, the inside jokes. I got the pat on the back, the "you're so independent." Like independence was a gift instead of neglect. I told myself it was fine, that maybe it was just birth order. But truthfully, I always felt like a guest. Ryan was the first person who ever said it out loud. You act like you're just visiting your own family. That stung. But he was right. So when he pointed out those fake shadows in the album, it was like someone finally turned on the lights in a dark room I'd been sitting in for years. That night, after the 911 call, I sat on our couch with Ryan holding me, trying to piece together scraps of memory. And the more I dug, the more my chest hurt. I remembered a word. Lana. Someone used to call me that. It wasn't Olivia. It wasn't American. It sounded like it came from far away, from somewhere war-torn and desperate. I thought about Bosnia, the news clips I'd seen as a kid, the stories of refugees. Was I one of them? Was I stolen in that chaos? My stomach churned at the thought. And suddenly, Linda's perfect family album wasn't nostalgic anymore. It was evidence. Evidence of a lie. I wanted to scream. I wanted to storm back to that house, slam the album down on the table and shout, "Tell me the truth." But instead I sat frozen, the phone heavy in my hand, the operator's voice on speaker. Ryan rubbing circles into my back as if he could keep me from falling apart. The operator asked for details, my birth certificate, any papers. I realized I'd never actually seen my original documents. Everything was lost in the war, Linda used to say. And I believed her. I trusted her. Until that moment. I hung up the call eventually. After giving them my address, they said an officer would follow up. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it might break my ribs. And Ryan just looked at me and said, "Liv, whatever this is, we'll face it together." I nodded, but inside I was unraveling. Because if the photos were fake, if my name wasn't Olivia, if my childhood was staged, then who the hell was I? And that question haunted me long after the Christmas lights dimmed. The police showed up 2 days later, not in sirens and flashing lights, just a quiet knock at the door while Ryan and I were finishing cold pizza for breakfast. I froze when I saw the uniforms through the peephole. My chest tightened. It was like the universe saying, "You can't run from this anymore." I opened the door with shaky hands. "Olivia?" the taller officer asked. "Yes," I whispered. "You made a report? About possible kidnapping?" Hearing it out loud from a stranger's mouth made my skin crawl. But I nodded. They stepped in, notebooks ready, eyes darting between Ryan and me, like they weren't sure which of us was about to break down. I tried to explain about the fake photos, the missing memories, the flashes of a woman smelling of citrus, about the word Lana. My voice cracked, but Ryan backed me up, showing them the pictures he'd snapped of the albums. The officers exchanged a look I couldn't read, half skeptical, half unsettled. One of them asked, "Do you still have contact with your adoptive parents?" The word adoptive hit me like a brick. Nobody had ever used it around me before. And I was about to answer when, no joke, there was another knock at the door. I swear my blood ran cold. Ryan peeked through the peephole, turned to me and mouthed, "It's them, Linda and Robert." Standing there like the ghosts of a lie I hadn't finished telling. The officers opened the door, and my parents walked in without hesitation, like they owned the place. Linda's pearls gleamed, but her face was tight, eyes darting. Robert looked smaller somehow. His bravado shrunk down to a nervous grin. "Sweetheart," Linda started, her voice that perfect mix of sugar and control. "We need to talk." I stood there frozen, arms crossed, waiting. Robert jumped in. "We heard you, contacted the police, and we just want to clear the air." "Clear the air," I snapped. My voice shook, but it was loud enough to cut through the silence. "You faked my childhood. You lied about who I am. And now, you want to clear the air?" Linda's hands fluttered like she was shooing away my words. "Listen, Olivia. Don't call me that," I blurted out. It slipped before I could stop it. Her mouth fell open. The officers glanced at each other, scribbling notes. Finally, Linda sighed. The kind of sigh you give when you've been cornered. "Fine. You're not biologically ours. Your mother, your real mother, her name was Nadia Kovac. She gave you to us. She begged us to take you. She couldn't care for you in that war-torn mess of a country. We saved you. Saved me." That word burned. Robert nodded along. "We did what any decent people would do. You think you'd have had this life otherwise? You'd probably be dead. Or worse," I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear down every word they said. But my throat was dry. The officers stayed calm, just writing, watching. Ryan spoke for me. "If she gave Olivia to you, then why fake the photos? Why erase her past? Why pretend she was yours from day one?" Linda's face tightened. "We didn't want her to feel different. We wanted her to belong. You don't know what it's like, raising a child who's not really yours. People judge. They question. We wanted to protect her, protect me." My laugh came out like a sob. "You protected yourselves. You used me as a golden ticket into America." didn't you? Their silence was the answer. And suddenly, all those years of subtle favoritism toward Mia, the constant reminders that I should be grateful, the way they paraded me around during immigration interviews, it all made sense. I wasn't a daughter. I was a passport stamp. The officers finally stepped in. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter," one of them said firmly, "we're going to need you to come with us and provide statements. This is a federal matter." Linda's mask cracked for the first time. Her face flushed, her voice trembling. "You can't do this. We gave her everything. She owes us—" "I don't owe you anything," I cut in, my voice steadier than I expected. "Not anymore." They left with the officers, their protests fading down the hall. When the door shut, I collapsed onto the couch, sobbing into my hands. Ryan knelt in front of me, holding my wrists, his voice gentle. "You did it. You stood up to them." But inside, I wasn't celebrating. I was hollow, because even with the confession, there was a hole in me bigger than ever. Nadia Kovac. That name rang in my ears like a bell I couldn't unhear. Who was she? Where was she? Did she ever stop looking for me? That night, while Ryan slept beside me, I opened my laptop and typed her name into the search bar. A foreign name in a foreign script, wrapped in a history I only half understood. And when her face appeared on the screen, older, worn by time, but achingly familiar, I swear my heart stopped, because for the first time in my life, I saw someone who looked exactly like me. And I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, my story wasn't over. It was just beginning. I couldn't sleep that night. Even with Ryan breathing steady beside me, even with the clock ticking past the 3 a.m., my eyes stayed locked on that glowing laptop screen. On it, her face, Nadia Kovac, lines of worry carved into her cheeks, silver streaking through her dark hair. And yet, my nose, my eyes, my mouth, it was like looking at an older version of myself. I whispered her name out loud just to hear how it felt. Nadia. The sound rolled off my tongue like a word I should have always known. Ryan stirred awake, rubbing his eyes. "You find something?" I turned the screen toward him. His face softened. "Liv. It's her." I nodded, tears blurring my vision. "It has to be." Her Facebook profile was half in Bosnian, half in broken English. Photos of family gatherings, candles on anniversaries, captions with words I didn't understand. But I saw one picture, her holding a single-frame photograph of a little girl. And my breath caught in my chest, because that little girl was me. Or rather, the me I never remembered. I clicked message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling. What do you even say to a mother who's been missing her child for 25 years? Ryan squeezed my hand. "Just tell her who you are. Tell her what you know." So I typed, "My name is Olivia. I think I might be your daughter." I hit send before I could lose my nerve. And then nothing. The message just sat there, a little grey checkmark taunting me. Minutes dragged. Then an hour. I thought I was going to crawl out of my skin. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leapt. But it was just junk mail or a weather alert. Finally, ping. A reply. One word. "Lana?" I gasped. Ryan's hand shot to mine. I typed back, "Yes." I remember someone calling me that. Is that my real name? Her typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, appeared again. And then came the flood. "Lana Kovac, my daughter. I have searched for you every day. Please video call, please." My whole body shook. Ryan set up the laptop camera, kissed the top of my head and whispered, "You don't have to do this alone." And right here, I clicked accept. And suddenly, there she was. Nadia, live, staring at me through the screen with tears streaming down her face. She covered her mouth, shaking her head in disbelief. It's you. My Lana, my baby. I couldn't breathe. The sound of her voice unlocked something deep in me, like a door I didn't know was there. I started sobbing, ugly crying, but I didn't care. I don't remember much, I choked out. But I remember oranges. And a woman, handing me to Linda. Nadia gasped. That was me. The day the soldiers came. I left you with the neighbor, Linda, just for 1 hour while I ran for papers. I came back. You were gone. She was gone. They told me I was crazy, that maybe you died in the chaos. But I knew. I knew someone took you. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear her words. Ryan leaned forward. So they lied. They didn't rescue her. They stole her. Nadia nodded fiercely, her accent thick, but her words sharp. Yes, they stole you. And then they took you to America. Because the government gave resettlement faster to families with children. You were their ticket. You were my heart. And they ripped you out. I covered my mouth, trying to hold back the scream clawing up my throat. All those years of being told I was lucky, that I should be grateful, that I was saved. And all along, I was just leverage. Nadia reached through the screen like she could pull me into her arms. I never stopped. Every year I lit candles. Every year I looked at your picture. I knew someday you would find me. Her words broke something open inside me. For the first time, I wasn't just Olivia, the outsider. I was Lana. I was hers. But then came the flood of anger. They'll pay for this, I said, my voice shaking. They don't get to just walk away. Nadia's face hardened. We go to court. Together. I lost my daughter for 25 years. They must answer Ryan. Squeezed my hand, his eyes steady. Liv, no, Lana. We're with you. We'll make this right. For the first time in my life, I felt the ground shift beneath me. Not the shaky, uncertain ground of someone who doesn't know where she belongs, but the solid ground of truth. Painful truth. Burning truth. But mine. That night, as the call ended and Nadia promised to send every document she still had, I lay in bed wide awake. My mind played back every fake photo, every staged Christmas, every pat on the back that felt hollow. And now I knew why. Because my childhood wasn't stolen memories. It was stolen, period. And I swore to myself as the sun came up the next morning, I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Not anymore. The very next week, everything shifted from whispers in my living room to the cold, echoing halls of the courthouse. Papers were filed. Kidnapping, immigration fraud, falsification of documents. Just reading those words on official letterhead made my stomach twist. But it also gave me something I hadn't felt in days. Control. Ryan held my hand as we walked through the metal detectors, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. Nadia had flown in, thanks to emergency travel approval, and when I saw her waiting on the courthouse steps, scarf pulled tight against the wind, I almost crumbled. She opened her arms like she'd been holding them out for 25 years. And for the first time in my life, I let myself fall into a mother's hug that felt real. Inside, the air buzzed with tension. Reporters lurked near the doors, cameras ready. Everyone wanted the Christmas kidnapping story. That's what they were calling me. A headline, a mystery unraveled under twinkling lights and fake photo albums. I hated it. But I also knew the attention meant one thing. People would see Linda and Robert for what they really were. When the trial began, they walked in flanked by their lawyers, still dressed like the picture-perfect suburban couple. Linda's pearls gleamed under the courtroom lights. Robert kept his chin up, pretending this was all some big misunderstanding. But their eyes, nervous, darting, guilty, betrayed them. The prosecutor laid it out plain. They exploited a war. They exploited a child. They doctored photographs. They lied on federal forms. They used an innocent little girl as their ticket to a new life. Every word felt like a hammer, pounding the truth into stone. When it was my turn to testify, my hands shook as I raised them for the oath. "Do you swear to tell the truth?" the clerk asked. "Yes," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I told them about the missing memories, the fake photos, the night I called 911. And then I told them about Nadia, the candles she lit, the photograph she clutched, the daughter she refused to forget. My throat burned, but I kept going, because for once, my story wasn't being told by someone else. It was mine. Linda's lawyer tried to twist it. "Isn't it true you had a good life here? You went to school, you were cared for, you had opportunities." I cut him off before I could stop myself. Opportunities don't erase theft. Comfort doesn't erase lies. A cage with flowers is still a cage. The room went quiet. Even the judge looked at me differently after that. When Linda finally took the stand, she broke. "We did what we had to do," she sobbed, mascara streaking down her face. "We gave her a better life. Her mother would have lost her anyway." Nadia stood up in the gallery, her voice shaking but strong. "No, I never gave up. You stole her security, had to settle the room, but the damage was done. The mask Linda wore for decades shattered in that one moment." Robert stayed stone-faced, arms crossed, refusing to speak. But silence can be louder than lies. The jury saw it. Everyone saw it. When the verdict came, my hands were ice. Guilty. On every charge. The judge revoked their citizenship, ordered deportation. Years in prison before that. Linda gasped, clutching Robert's arm. "You can't take everything from us," she cried. I stood up, my voice steady. "You took everything from me first." For once, they had no comeback. Outside the courthouse, microphones shoved in my face, questions flying. "How does it feel? What's next for you?" I looked past them, to Nadia, her eyes shining with tears. "It feels like finally," I said simply. Finally, the truth won. That night, I sat in my apartment with Ryan and Nadia, the three of us crowded on the couch, pizza boxes between us. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't picture perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a puzzle piece forced into the wrong box. I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Because winning in court was one thing. Learning how to live with the truth, that was the real battle waiting for me. The news spread faster than I could process it. By the next morning, every major outlet had the headlines splashed across their pages. Suburban couple convicted of wartime child abduction. Citizenship revoked. My face, my real face, was plastered next to theirs. My name tied to a story I never asked for. Linda and Robert were taken into custody immediately. I watched the footage on TV. Linda's hands cuffed in front of her, still dressed in pearls, crying out, "We saved her! She owes us!" Robert kept his jaw locked, eyes cold, refusing to look at the cameras. You'd think I'd feel satisfaction. Justice. Vindication. And I did. But it was tangled with grief. Because no matter what they'd done, they were still the people who raised me. They taught me how to ride a bike, packed my lunches, drove me to school dances. And yet, behind all that, they'd been lying every single day. That's the kind of betrayal that doesn't just sting, it hollows you out. Mia, my adoptive sister, called me the night after the verdict. Her voice was small, nothing like the confident girl I grew up with. Liv, I don't even know what to say. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone pressed to my ear. Maybe start with the truth. Did you know? She hesitated. Too long. My chest tightened. No, she said finally, her voice cracking. I didn't know. I swear. But I knew something was off. They always treated you like you were different. I guess I didn't want to see it. I'm sorry I closed my eyes, letting the silence stretch. You should have said something, Mia. I know. Her breath hitched. But I want to fix this. I don't want to lose you, too. I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted to slam the door shut forever. Another part, the part that had always envied her easy place in the family, knew she was just as blindsided as me. Finally, I said, then prove it. Be here now. Not for them. For me. When I hung up, I didn't know if we'd ever be real sisters. But maybe, just maybe, we could start over. Meanwhile, Nadia and I clung to each other like lifelines. Every day, she filled in another missing piece of my past. Stories of a childhood cut short by war, of lullabies sung in Bosnian, of a favorite stuffed bear I used to carry everywhere. With every detail, I felt less like a ghost and more like a whole person. She was gentle, but she was fierce too. We survived them, she told me one night, as we sat in my kitchen with mugs of tea. They stole you, but they didn't break you. We take back everything they tried to erase. Ryan smiled at us across the table, his hand covering mine. She's right, Liv. Or should I say, Lana? The name still felt foreign, like a coat I hadn't quite grown into. But every time Nadia said it, every time I heard it spoken with love, it started to fit a little more. As for Linda and Robert, the legal hammer came down fast. Their appeals failed. The government stripped their citizenship, and they were scheduled for deportation back to Bosnia once their prison terms were over. The irony was brutal. They'd stolen a child to escape a war, and now they'd be sent back to the country they ran from. I didn't visit them in prison. I couldn't. But I heard from their lawyer that Linda cried her every day, begging for letters from me. I never sent one. She'd had 25 years to tell me the truth. She chose lies instead. Still, some nights I lay awake wondering, did she ever love me in her own twisted way? Or was I just a means to an end? I don't think I'll ever know. But here's what I do know. Standing with Nadia outside the courthouse after her visa was approved, watching her cry tears of joy as she clutched the paperwork, that meant she could finally live in the US legally. I knew I wasn't alone anymore. We walked out into the sunlight together, mother and daughter, arm in arm. And for the first time in 25 years, the air didn't feel heavy with lies. It felt like freedom. But freedom comes with choices. Who was I going to be now? Olivia, the girl raised in lies? Or Lana, the girl stolen from her real mother? Or maybe both? Maybe I didn't have to choose. That night, Ryan pulled me close and whispered, "You know, your wedding's coming up, and now you'll have your real mum there to walk you down the aisle." My throat tightened, tears spilling before I could answer. "Yeah," I whispered back. "For once, it'll be real." And that's when I realized justice wasn't just about punishing the guilty. It was about reclaiming everything they tried to take from me. And I was just getting started. The wedding day came faster than I thought it would. Maybe it was because, for the first time in my life, I wasn't walking into a celebration weighed down by secrets. No fake smiles. No photo albums full of lies. Just me, Ryan, and the people who had chosen to stand beside us in truth. The morning sunlight poured through the stained glass windows of the small chapel we'd rented. Simple. Nothing extravagant. But to me, it felt like a palace. Nadia stood in the dressing room with me, smoothing the veil over my hair, her hands trembling. Tears shimmered in her eyes. "You are more beautiful than I ever dreamed," she whispered, her accent wrapping around every word like music. I smiled through my own tears. "And you're here. That's all I need." When the ceremony began, I didn't walk down the aisle alone. I walked with Nadia on one side, Ryan waiting at the end, and Mia, yes, Mia, sitting in the front row, watching with misty eyes. She'd shown up that morning unannounced, clutching a bouquet she'd picked up on the way. "I don't deserve forgiveness yet," she said quietly, "but I want to start today." And for once, I believed her. As the music swelled, I caught Ryan's gaze. He smiled, steady, grounding. The man who saw the shadows in my photos and refused to look away. In that moment, I knew this wasn't just about marriage. It was about reclaiming my life. The vows were simple. No grand speeches, no rehearsed lines, just promises. Promises to see each other, to protect the truth no matter how messy it is, to never look away. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Ryan kissed me like he was sealing every broken piece back together. The applause was real. The laughter was real. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was real. Not Olivia the outsider. Not Lana the stolen child. Just me. Whole, loved, and free. At the reception, Nadia danced with me to an old Bosnian lullaby she used to hum when I was a baby. She cried, but they were tears of joy this time. Mia pulled me aside, her voice shaking. "I can't undo what they did. But I can choose to be your sister now. If you'll let me." I looked at her, saw the sincerity in her eyes, and nodded. "Then start here. Start now." As the night wound down, Ryan and I stepped outside into the cool air. The stars stretched wide above us, endless. I thought about Linda and Robert, sitting in prison cells, clinging to excuses. I thought about all the years lost. And then I let it go. Because standing there in my wedding dress, my husband's hand in mine, my real mother laughing inside the hall, I finally understood something. They had stolen 25 years, but they couldn't steal my ending. I chose to end this story with love, not lies, with freedom, not fear, with family, the real kind, the kind built on truth. And as we walked back inside to join the people who mattered, I whispered to myself, "They tried to write my story for me." But I took the pen back, and this time, every word was mine.